State Representative for House District 40, which is Oregon City, Gladstone, in this region here. And I'm very proud to present and introduce Congressman Schrader this evening. We want to thank you all for coming to this town hall event. And I just want to set the stage and the kind of the ground rules of how tonight's event's going to go. As you all were signing in and checking in, we were all given a little ticket stub. We're going to give everybody a chance, but we can't give everybody a chance, so we're going to go through the lottery system with the tickets. I'm going to read 2 tickets. The person that's actually going to be up to speak and ask their question, then we'll have the on deck. And every 2 tickets will rotate through that. So here's just a piece of advice. Your ticket's called, instead of us reading it 3 or 4 times and you're not interested in asking a question, just say pass, okay? Just say pass, and we'll go on to the next, and then kind of use this as a great way to give everybody a chance to, ask a question. And the whole point of this town hall is to let you, as a citizen of our Senate District, our Congressional District 5, an opportunity to speak directly to the congressman and ask your questions, and let the congressman kind of give us an idea of how things are going for us in Washington, D.C. So that being said, I appreciate all of your patience and your involvement here this evening, and I know that the Congressman Schrader does also. So let me tell you a little bit about the congressman. Congressman Kurt Schrader is currently serving his 6th term in the United States House of Representatives. He represents Oregon's 5th Congressional District, which includes all of Marion, Polk, Lincoln, and Tillamook counties, as well as the bulk of Clackamas and small portions of Multnomah and Benton counties. Before being elected to Congress, Congressman Schrader worked for more than 30 years as an organic fruit and vegetable farmer and a veterinarian, establishing and managing his own clinic in Oregon City. He spent over 10 years in the Oregon State Legislature, where he served as chair of the Joint Ways and Means Committee. Congressman Schrader currently serves as a member of the House Committee on Energy and Commerce, which oversees a wide portfolio of issues ranging from healthcare to the environment. In the 116th Congress, Congressman Schrader serves on the Energy and Commerce Subcommittee on Health, the Subcommittee on Energy, and the Subcommittee on Communications and Technology. Prior to joining Energy and Commerce, Congressman Schrader served on the House Committee on Agriculture, where he served on the Farm Bill Conference Committee that successfully passed a 5-year farm bill. Many of you may have heard of that one. It's very successful. And the House Committee on Small Business, the House Budget Committee, and Congressman Schrader also is a member of the Democratic Blue Dog and New Democrat coalitions, and the bipartisan No Labels Problem Solvers Caucus. Congressman Schrader received his BA in government in 1973 from Cornell University and his veterinary degree from the University of Illinois in 1977. So without further ado, let's please welcome our Congressman Schrader, Kurt Schrader.
Well, good turnout. I appreciate that. Good to be home. Very good to be home. I have a little bit of a cold, and believe it or not, losing my voice already. I've only been home a few days, so I apologize a little bit up front. Try and get through a lot of questions. I enjoy hearing from you guys, what's on your mind, what are you hearing, and hopefully to disseminate a little bit of information too. I'll just talk a little bit at the beginning, maybe stuff you don't know that's going on. If you're to believe the national news media, the only thing we're dealing with is the presidential impeachment issue. I can assure you there's a lot more going on. It's very important. Take our job very, very seriously, that issue. I'd answer any questions, but now that ball is in the Senate's court. We on the House side, even as we are going through some pretty difficult issues dealing with the president, still able to get a lot done. For the first time in a long time, we actually came to agreement on all the appropriations bills that budget your tax dollars. There's certainty now in your lives, your families, and your businesses, what's going to be happening for the next 9 months till the next fiscal year. That was a pretty good deal. That's Democrats, Republicans working together, both chambers, doing what our one huge constitutional duty is, and that's actually budget your tax dollars. We also were able to come to agreement on a trade deal with Canada and Mexico. It was an interesting process. The President started it off and ended up with Speaker Pelosi and Richard Trumka representing the unions closing a deal that had wide bipartisan support. It's the first trade deal I've participated in since I've come to Congress where you had overwhelming bipartisan support in the House of Representatives by both Democrats and Republicans. And I think it will pass the Senate also. I'm talking to my Senate colleagues. It doesn't appear to be particularly contentious. And that augurs well. That augurs well for jobs. Certainly for agriculture, our state's very dependent on agriculture, so it's a great opportunity for us to be able to resell these products to our two biggest trading partners, Canada and Mexico. That's a big win. That's a big win for this country, and everyone played a role in it. The other bill that I generally have generally don't always support, that's the Defense Authorization Act. As you guys know, I'm concerned about the amount of money we spend in national defense. I want to make sure our warriors are protected. Very, very important. But I don't think there's an aircraft carrier that we haven't seen that we want to spend more money on. We have more aircraft carriers than the rest of the world combined. And we need to be judicious in how we spend our money in this arena. But I'll tell you, this most recent bill, we're able to get the military to deal with an issue that, in my opinion, they've been ducking for a number of years. And that's sexual assault, sexual harassment within the military. Trying to get better standards, better procedures by which women serving in the armed services can seek redress if there's something going on. This was a huge, huge win in this bill. We actually also had a local issue that got addressed in this bill. We had a service member that served with distinction in the Persian Gulf, was asked to be discharged. They asked to discharge him. He said, okay, he's getting older, I'll come back home. He got involuntarily called back up, and he was told he's got to pay back the severance payment that they paid him earlier. Yeah, that's kind of, come on, man, you know? And unfortunately, men and women in the military face this on an ongoing basis. We're able to get that fixed in this defense authorization bill where men and women who serve our military with distinction go home through no fault of their own, take the severance payment, but they don't have to pay it back anymore. So little victories like this, it's not always major legislation, it's protecting you guys and your families, frankly, at the front lines of Congress, issues you have right here. The House also passed a bill, and I think it has a lot of promise in the Senate, called the Coastal Communities Enhancement Act. Fancy name for a bill that puts a lot of research and development into seeking solutions for ocean acidification, algal bloom issues that we have here in the Willamette Valley. Huge bipartisan bill that will enable us to put a lot more emphasis on some of the changes we're seeing as a result of climate change here in Oregon and frankly around the world. A very exciting piece of legislation that came out that we played a significant role in, as Mark was talking about. We're big on supporting the agricultural community. It's a lifeblood of a lot of folks in the Willamette Valley. The biggest problem I hear from farmers is there's just not enough farm workers. Biggest thing I hear from a lot of farm workers is, hey, I'm not sure with this administration if I'm going to be able to stay or leave, or, I'm afraid to come to this country. I've been here before. I've worked legally in this country. So what we did was we actually looked at the what they call the H-2A program, which is an ag worker visa program. We made some huge improvements in it. We have a path to legal citizenship or permanent residence, depending on what the individual wants, to make sure that they have an opportunity to come to this country, live the American dream, and frankly, help us produce the greatest food and fiber in the world. It's the safest and healthiest. We have E-Verify in the system to make sure no one's cheating. but it's the first piece of immigration legislation that I've seen again since I've been in Congress these past 10, 12 years, where we've got bipartisan support to do something that should be common sense, in my opinion, for everybody. So that's an exciting piece of legislation that I hope gets action on the Senate side. It'll be a little bit more of a heavy lift there. Last but not least, one of the biggest things we did pass was an ability to deal with the rising cost of prescription drugs. I serve on the Energy and Commerce Committee, the Health Sub, as Mark talked about, and besides dealing with the insurance issues, one of the biggest drivers of increased costs and premiums and deductibles and your hospitalization is the rising cost of pharmaceuticals. We've been a leader in that arena. We passed the only bill in the last Congress that actually got to the President's desk and signed to rein in the Martin Shkreli's of the world, those hedge fund managers that buy up these drugs, and it's a sole source drug, and they raise the price 200-300%. We stopped that in the last Congress. In this particular Congress, we passed out, at my committee, 6 bipartisan generic competition bills to lower the cost of generic drugs in the marketplace, and we passed a bill that not 100% bipartisan, but there's elements that we see with Senator Wyden's Finance Committee dealing with drug price negotiation. The VA negotiates drug prices, negotiates lower prices, right? Department of Defense gets to negotiate lower drug costs for their members. Even low-income Americans through the Medicaid program get to negotiate drug prices. Who doesn't then? Seniors, exactly right. Seniors do not. That's wrong. That is wrong on so many levels. Frankly, we all should have that ability. You're allowed to negotiate for better prices. It's a market principle. It's been held up. We finally got it passed. It has several other key elements out there, putting more transparency in the system. I mean, it is a Byzantine chain of actors that play into the cost of the pharmaceuticals we pay at the counter when we pick them up. So we need more transparency. We also put a provision in there that got nominal support in the Senate also to limit price increases for existing medications to no more than the rate of inflation. So instead of going up 5, 15, 20, 200%, was inflation this year, 2.5%. That would be a huge saving for everybody. That's not just seniors, that'd be for all of us would have that opportunity. The other big problem we have for a lot of seniors is that while the insurance company will pick up a lot of your costs, depending on if you're on Medicare or you have supplemental, one thing they don't always do is pick up your drug costs. Some of these drugs are super expensive, thousands and thousands of dollars a year. Well, there is bipartisan support, bicameral support, both Senate and House, to limit the out-of-pocket cost to seniors. And that was in our bill, and it's also in the Senate Finance bill. So I'm a little bullish, slightly optimistic, despite all the turmoil in Washington, D.C., that coming over the next few months, we might have an opportunity to actually get this bill across the finish line and make sure that these prescription drug costs are not going quite as high or through the roof like they are right now. So it's not all doom and gloom in D.C., a lot of controversy and tough times, but Congress is still working along with the White House and certainly with the Senate, Republicans, Democrats, getting some of the critical stuff done that you expect us to do. And with that, we should take questions.
Thank you. Okay, be ready out there. Here's the first 2 tickets. And the first 3 digits are 691370. 691370. And raise your hand.
Pass.
Pass. Okay, there's a pass there. 254826. 254826. That'll just set that down for a second. 69. Did we find it? No. 691459. Right here, Elizabeth. You ready? You got a question? Alexandria will come right over. And then on deck, let's have 691402. Just raise your hand if you have that. 402. 69. Okay, you'll be on deck.
I was noticing a year ago the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change mentioned that we have 12 years to get our fossil fuel burning reduced if we want to keep civilization as we know it. And I was curious what matters are being done that are big enough to take care of that, and how you feel about the fully refunded carbon tax that seems to have some bipartisan support.
Thank you, Elizabeth. We tried to address the carbon emission issue back when I first came to Congress. We had an energy independence bill that I voted for, trying to bring all the parties together. Unfortunately, partisanship got in the way there, and became a real problem, and we haven't been able to do too much up until this year. Previous administration put us into the Paris Accords. I think that's a good thing. You can't solve a problem if you're not part of a group, right? Why would they listen to us, the United States, a leader in energy conservation, reducing emissions, if we're not part of the agreement? So there's been a big push, some bipartisan interest in actually rejoining the Paris Accords. We've had 2 bills recently coming out of Energy and Commerce, Climate Action Now, trying to come up with different ways for different sectors of the economy to become under control, to try and reduce those costs. I was alluding to a bill I'm working with, a colleague of mine from actually West Virginia. We're looking at maybe coming to an agreement on coming down to almost near zero emissions from power plants, and allowing us to drive those down by putting more research into battery storage, renewable energy, carbon sequestration, not prejudging what energy source you use, but demanding that over the next, probably won't be 10 years, but over the next 15 or 20 years, certainly like Oregon's done, get to where we're near zero emissions out of these power plants. And I've got Republican and Democrats, both sides of the aisle, actually very interested in working on this. So I'm kind of optimistic we're starting to break through. My Republicans in Congress will tell you that yes, climate change is real. Believe it or not, that's progress. We had not had that sort of response from them up until the last few years. So all you got to do is look at the wildfires, not just in Australia, but right here in this country, to know in the ocean fires that we're having right now. Those are huge. Losing a lot of our shellfish industry. So people are starting to believe that there's an issue, and the good news is we're actually starting to do something about it.
Thank you. All right, so you were at 459, is that correct?
402.
402, okay, excellent.
Hi, I'm Cheryl from West Lynn. First, I want to thank you for all the work you do for us in Washington. It's hard work, and your efforts are appreciated. I'm concerned about the Affordable Care Act. Behind the scenes, there's a lot of efforts going to nibble away at some of the important elements, particularly the pre-existing conditions. And I was wondering if you could give a little update from your perspective on the future of the Affordable Care Act.
So I think the future is actually good. Unfortunately, to your point, there have been some efforts to nibble away at the edges. There was an outright repeal effort in the last Congress. A lot of my friends from different states that were worried about Medicaid expansion and, frankly, the cost it would have come back now in my committee asking for help for their uninsured. My answer is, well, just sign on to Medicaid expansion with the Affordable Care Act. We don't need to have another pot of money. The money there was really paid for at the end of the day. There are some problems that we're seeing. Deductibles and premiums are going up for middle-class Americans. A lot of the programs that we had envisioned helping keep the Affordable Care Act affordable for middle-class, upper-middle-class Americans, unfortunately have been negated by either the administration or previous Congresses. But I've got bipartisan support for a reinsurance program to spread the risk of high-cost individuals. I've got bipartisan support for low-cost subsidies for folks that can't even afford any premiums. And I've got support for more state waivers to allow states to innovate. Because Oregon's going to be different than Louisiana or New York. And so let's give the states the opportunity to do those things. That actually has a lot of cachet, so we're trying to look at that. The other things we need to do is make sure there's a decent enrollment period. That's been cut back. I want to make sure that people have the same opportunities to sign up that they've had in the past, and that's not happened. Sometimes the current administration, unfortunately, has reduced the Navigator program, giving you guys more expertise in what health plan, what works for you at the end of the day. So there's a lot of little pieces that we need to be working on and trying to put a little emphasis on. I'm chairing the Healthcare Task Force for part of our caucus called the New Dems. We're going to be dealing with that, I think, over the next few months along with prescription drugs.
Okay, our next ticket is 691459. 691459. Oh, is that your, okay, that's what I was curious. 691372. Is that one of the numbers that was called? Okay, yeah, here.
Hi Kurt, my name is Kristen. In your fight against rising pharmaceutical costs, are you supporting universal health care? Why or why not?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
In your fight against rising pharmaceutical costs, are you supporting universal health care? Why or why not?
I'm supporting universal access to health care. That's part of the whole reason behind the Affordable Care Act. It was pretty unpopular with a segment of the population back in the day. Again, as I said earlier, the Republicans tried to repeal that. They found out it was actually the people may have questions about Obamacare, but they liked the Affordable Care Act. And that was wildly popular in West Virginia, Texas, other states. And so they were unsuccessful in repealing that. We can't wait for perfect solutions or whatever. We need to get after it right now. I alluded to a program that I've got, worked on it with members of both the Democrat and Republican parties, trying to shore up and fix what's wrong with the Affordable Care Act. It has given health care to millions of Americans that had no access before, driven down our uninsurance rate very, very dramatically. But we can't wait for something that unfortunately I don't think has a lot of opportunity passing the United States Senate. We've got to work on something that gives universal access to every American right now. And that's the focus of what we're trying to do. I'm trying to find bipartisan support for types of things that they will buy into, that we can pass not just in the House, but across the Senate and get the President to actually sign.
Okay, 691372. Right here, sir. Yes. And then on deck is going to be 691443. 443. 372 is right here. There you go, sir. Right here.
My name is Larry Hermo, and I was a history government teacher at Richmond High School for many years. And we threw around a lot of stuff